Hi kids, let's start with the third story of your book Flamingo, and the third story is Deep Waters and it is written by William Douglas. Now this story is actually about the author himself, the writer himself. And this story, the idea is the author is sharing some personal incidents of his life, that how he had overcome the fear of water. So therefore, Deep Water is the title of your story. So author has actually how he overcame this fear, this anxiety that he had, some really we could say disturbing memories that he had of this water, how he overcame that in later stages of life. So we are going to read that as a story. So let us start. But before that, let's have a look about the author. Let's read something about the author. So William Douglas was born in Maine, Minnesota. After graduating with a Bachelor's of Arts in English and Economics, he spent 2 years teaching high school in Yakima. However, he got tired of this and decided to pursue a legal career. He met Franklin D. Roosevelt at Yale and became an advisor and a friend to the president. Douglas was a leading advocate of individual rights. He retired in 1975 with a term lasting 36 years and remains the longest serving justice in the history of the court. The following excerpt, which means the part, he's written a great descriptive thing about his life, and one such portion, one such part of it is literally there as a chapter, as a story, and therefore it is being said that one such excerpt, or this following excerpt, is taken from Of Men and Mountains by William O. Douglas. It reveals that how as a young boy William Douglas nearly drowned in the swimming pool. And in this essay he talks about his fear of water and how he finally overcame it. Notice how the autobiographical part of the selection is used to support his discussion of fear. So here we are going to actually read his autobiography, one portion, one excerpt from his autobiography, where we are going to see that how he overcame his own fear of water. And therefore the name of the story is The Deep Waters. Deep Waters. Let's start with the narration. It had happened when I was 10 or 11 years old. I had decided to learn to swim. There was a pool at the YMCA in Yakima that offered exactly the opportunity. The Yakima River was treacherous. Mother continually warned against it and kept fresh in my mind the details of each drowning in that river. But the YMCA pool was safe. It was only 2 or 3 feet deep at the shallow end, and while it was 9 feet deep at the other, the drop was gradual. I got a pair of water wings and went to the pool. I hated to walk naked into it and show my skinny legs, but I subdued my pride and did it. So what happened here? Here we see that incident, the author William is talking about that incident that actually gripped his mind with that fear for water. So what actually happened? So one day, is probably the time when William Douglas was just 10 or 11 years old, and he was very much excited to learn swimming. And there was a pool at YMCA, that is the Young Men Christians Association. Young Men Christians Association. Yes? And this pool had given him this opportunity that yes, he can come here and learn how to swim. Now the place that he lives in is Yakima, and there was a river named the Yakima River. Now that river was treacherous, means it was very dangerous. So it was dangerous, and therefore his mother used to continuously keep telling him that, don't go to that river, you should stay away from the water. Why? Because she keeps telling him about people getting drowned every now and then in this dangerous river, that is the Yakima river. But this child, William, as a child, said that okay, he's aware that yes, this river is dangerous, but he feels that this swimming pool at YMCA is providing him that perfect platform, the perfect opportunity where he could very safely learn how to swim. And therefore he is ready and he goes to the YMCA pool, and he is describing that pool, because every swimming pool that you see, you would find that one side it is shallower and at the other side you find the great depth. So he is exactly telling you and describing that pool, and he's saying that initially the pool was just 2 to 3 feet deep. Yes, and then gradually the depth started increasing. So here it is 2 to 3 feet, and here it becomes 8 to 9 feet. And he's saying that this shift, this transition from being a shallow to the greater depth was very smooth, was very gradual. It was not very sudden. So he said that he's telling that how he was prepared to learn to swim. So he got a pair of water wings. What were water wings? So they were small pocket like balloons which could be blown and worn on the arms as wings, so as to learn to swim. For people who do not know, they have this, they wear it to learn to swim. And then he's saying that I hate it because I was a skinny child, which means I was a very thin child and I had very thin legs. So I did not really like to show my legs and I do not really like to go naked to the pool. But somehow I kind of subdued my pride and self-respect. That is, I somehow kind of maintained my self-respect and I decided to take a plunge into the water. So here we're talking about pride means the self-respect, right? And here I was talking about one more word. Skinny means very thin. Fine. Now, from the beginning, however, I had an aversion to the water when I was in it. This started when I was 3 or 4 years old and father took me to the beach in California. He and I stood together in the surf. I hung on to him, yet the waves knocked me down and swept over me. I was buried in water. My breath was gone. I was frightened. Father laughed, but there was terror in my heart at the overpowering force of the waves. So here he's recalling that incident that actually got him fear, because of which he was not actually too much, a liker of water. So here he's saying that I had an aversion, means I kind of disliked being in water. Like even if I am in water, I used to dislike the water. And he said he's recalling that why he has a disliking towards water, because when he was just 3 or 4 years old, he went along with his father to a beach, and this child actually held his father very close, hung on to him literally, and when they were stood together in the surf, that is in the waves of water, in the waves of sea, in the waves of water, they hung together. And when the waves actually hit them, so he probably got buried inside the water. At that point, the poor child got really frightened. He became afraid. That fear actually gripped his mind and heart, and he still remembers that incident. And because of this, he probably does not like water, but still he wants to learn swimming. So this is the terror that he remembers whenever he thinks of being in water. My introduction to the YMCA swimming pool revived unpleasant memories and stirred the childish fears. But in a little while, I gathered confidence. I paddled with my new water wings, watching the other boys and trying to learn by aping them. I did this 2 or 3 times on different days and was just beginning to feel at ease in the water when the misadventure happened. So probably William Douglas, the author, has actually had a number of misadventurous things related to water. So one was when he was a child at 3 or 4 years old, when he got washed off, he got buried under the water because of the waves. And that was the starting point of his fear, where he actually developed that fear in his mind and heart, and he started disliking the water. But still, he decided that he should learn how to swim when he was 10 or 11 years old. And then he decided that he is going to come to YMCA pool, and he was well prepared. And he even, when he actually went inside the pool, those memories of the childhood when he was at the beach, that just came to his mind. But still, he gathered all his confidence, and finally he started learning like the other boys. He started pedaling with his wings, and it was just 2 or 3 days, and he was just going to get comfortable. Yes, he was just trying to become comfortable, but then that adventure happened. What happened? Some incident happened, something happened, because of which things took a turn. So here are some important words. Is aping them means he started copying them. So there were many such boys who were learning how to swim there, and he started copying them. Now what actually happened for the second time? I went to the pool when no one else was there. The place was quiet, the water was still, and the tiled bottom was as white and clean as a bathtub. I was timid about going in alone, so I sat on the side of the pool to wait for others. So now the child, as a child, he remembers that, that day, after 2 or 3 days, when he started feeling a little comfortable, so he decided to go to the pool, and on that day, no one else was there. And he could see the pool was still, because no one was inside the water. And he could see the calmness of the water in the pool. He could even see the, tiled base of the pool, that is the floor of the pool. And then suddenly, and he was just feeling timid, because he was feeling like he's very small in front of that entire pool to go alone in that. And should he wait for others? And that's exactly something happened. I had not been there long when in came a big bruiser of a boy, probably 18 years old. He had thick hair on his chest. He was a beautiful physical specimen with legs and arms that showed rippling muscles. He yelled, "Hi skinny, how do you like to be ducked?" So what happened? He was just looking at the water all this while, and suddenly he saw that a muscular boy came in, who was probably some 17-18 years old boy. And he's describing them as a big bruiser. Means a big boy who's, someone who's having that nature of, of fighting, someone who enjoys fighting with others. So someone who is stronger physically and enjoys to fight or argue. So someone who is physically more stronger and enjoys to fight with others or argue with others. So suddenly one such boy came in, and he had thick hair on his chest, and he was a beautiful physical specimen. Specimen means an example of a boy who had very good muscles, with legs and arms that had rippling muscle, like proper muscular body. And then that big boy, actually yells at this the other poor author, who was a small boy at that time, that, "Hi skinny, how do you like to be ducked? Like, how do you want to be, plunged into the water? How do you want to get into the water?" And while saying that, with that, he picked me up and tossed me into the deep end. I landed in a sitting position, swallowed water, and went at once to the bottom. So while, he said all that, he actually picked up the poor author, the little boy he was at that time, and actually threw him away. Tossed me means he threw him away into the pool, that is even to the deeper end, not on the shallower side, but on the deeper side. He actually threw him away. And the author, he was not ready, he was not prepared, he was not even thinking that something like this would happen. and the child, actually in the sitting position, he just went inside the water, and some water actually went inside his nose, his mouth, and at once he reached the bottom. Now he was frightened, but not yet frightened out of my wits. So the author said that yes, when something this sudden happened, yes, he became really fearful, he became very nervous, yes, but still in that fearful situation also, he was not out of his wits, means intelligence, means he was not he had not lost his power to think, so he decided how to act. I would on the way down, I planned, when my feet hit the bottom, I would make a big jump, come to the surface, lie flat on it, and paddle to the edge of the pool. So now while he was very fearful, while he was thrown in the water, that too at the deeper end, so this child, even in that nervousness, even in that fear that gripped him, he made a plan. He used his mind, he used his brain, and he came up with a plan that as soon as he is going to reach the bottom, that is the floor of the pool, as soon as he is going to reach there, he decided that he is going to jump up, that is he is going to put pressure on the floor, and he will jump to the surface, so that he comes on the surface, and when he reaches the surface, he will lie down flat over the water and swim back to the area which is having shallower water, that is on the edge of the pool. It seemed a long way down. Those 9 feet were more like 90, and before I touched bottom, my lungs were ready to burst. But when my feet hit bottom, I summoned all my strength and made what I thought was a great spring upwards. So like he had planned, while he had actually thought about this, at the moment my feet is going to touch the floor of the pool, I am going to jump up. Yes, he made all that plan. But while thinking, he thought that this 9 feet seems to be 90 because it's taking too long for him to actually reach or hit the pool bottom. And when he actually did, he actually felt that his whole lungs were ready to burst because they were filled with water. He was unable to breathe. So he was feeling as if his lungs are going to burst. And then when he hit the bottom, he gathered all his strength. Summoned means he gathered all his strength, and with that he actually tried, he thought that he took a very good jump. A very good, great spring means he thought that he took a very good jump upwards. I imagined I would bob, means jump, to the surface like a cork. Instead, I came up slowly. So this child, when he hit the pool bottom, and like he had planned that he would spring up, he would jump to the surface, and he actually did that, and he thought that he had actually taken a very good jump. But he realized that he was coming upwards only very slowly. It was not a very good jump probably, and he was taking time to come up. I opened my eyes and saw nothing but water. Water that had a dirty yellow tinge to it. So while he was coming up, he thought that probably, let's see where he is. So he opened his eyes, and all he could see everywhere was just the water. He was completely surrounded with the water because he was still not on the surface. He still not reached the surface. And then he also saw that this water had a dirty yellow tinge, means a kind of a dirty yellow color was there in that water. I grew panicky, which means he became really nervous and worried. He became nervous, worried, tensed, anything that you want to think of. He became really worried, he became really tensed actually and nervous. And then I reached up as if to grab a rope, and my hands clutched only at water. So looking at the incident, when he actually moved up, he took a jump, he thought that he would reach the surface very quickly. But instead, it was a slow process. So while he opened the eyes midway, all he saw was water, and that too a dirty yellow tinge to the water was there, a dirty yellow color was there to the water. So looking at all that, he became all the more anxious, all the more worried and nervous. And then he decided that, okay, let me put my hand up, let me get hold of something, let me grab some rope or something so that I could save myself. Grab means hold. Yes, but all that he could hold was the water. Nothing actually came. There was no rope, nothing. All he could hold was the water. And he started feeling suffocating, that he was unable to breathe. Unable to breathe or having difficulty in breathing. I tried to yell, but no sound came out. Then my eyes and nose came out of the water, but not my mouth. So he was coming up from the water, right, from the bottom of the pool. So in midway he realized there's all water all around. He panicked, he became nervous. He tried to hold on to something, but there was nothing around, and all he could hold was the water. And therefore he was getting suffocated. He was not able to breathe. His mouth was filled with water. So everywhere he was becoming very anxious, right? Probably, obviously the child does not know how to swim. He was just learning, and it was just 2 or 3 days it came for that. And now he even tried to yell, scream for some help. He decided to scream for help, some help, but then nothing really worked out. He felt as if the sound was not coming out of his mouth. And slowly, that is exactly when he realized that yes, his eyes first came out of the water, then came his nose, but still his mouth was inside the water. I flayed at the surface of the water, swallowed and choked. I tried to bring my legs up, but they hung as dead weights, paralyzed and rigid. A great force was pulling me under. I screamed, but only the water heard me. I had started on the long journey back to the bottom of the pool. So what happened when as a child he actually came up, his eyes were visible, then his nose, but his mouth was still under the water. And then he swallowed more of water, and what did he do? He swallowed more water and he choked. He was again unable to breathe. Yes. And then he tried that, okay, up to lift himself more, he tried to pull up his legs. But it seemed as if his legs had become dead, they are paralyzed, they are rigid, they are too heavy, too strong, as if they were very heavy. They were very heavy and rigid, that is hard or strong to move. And then he again felt that as if the water was again pulling him down, and there was no one around, no one to help him. And then he again, so at one time he went up and he came up on the surface, and now when he came up he realized that again he is being pulled within the pool. The water is as if pulling him down again to the bottom of the pool. So I struck at the water as I went down, expending my strength as one in a nightmare fights an irresistible force. So when again for the second time he was drowning, that is, he was going inside the water, he just realized that this is something like a nightmare, where he's actually literally fighting with the water to survive, to come up. But here the water is actually pulling him down, probably as if it is giving him some electric shock. Yes, so he felt like that. I had lost all my breath. Yes, he lost all his breath. He was unable to breathe. He was suffocating. His lungs were aching, that is paining. My lungs ached, my head throbbed. That is, throb means when you have a series of pain. Yes. So his head was throbbing, that a series of pain was there. His lungs were aching, he was paining, he was unable to breathe, he was running out of breath. I was getting dizzy, means probably as if he is going to faint. But I remembered the strategy, that is the plan. I would spring from the bottom of the pool and come like a cork to the surface. So again he had the same idea in mind, the same plan of action, that the moment he is going to hit the bottom, again he is going to jump up. I would lie flat on the water, strike out with my arms and thrash my legs. So he decided that, okay, this time when I hit the bottom, again I'm going to make a jump to the surface, lie, and when I reach the surface of the water, I'm going to lie down flat and thrash. That is, I'm going to move my legs, swim my legs, move my legs and move my hands so as to get to the edge of the pool and be safe. I went down endlessly. I opened my eyes. Nothing but water with a yellow glow, dark water that one could not see through. So now he was probably at the deep bottom of the pool, and when he opened that eyes, all he could see was water, and it was so much there, it was with that yellow tinge, that he felt as if he was not able to see through the water. And then sheer, stark terror seized me. Terror that knows no understanding. Terror that knows no control. Terror that no one can understand who has not experienced it. So at this point, when the child was also not able to see anything, and it's the second time that he landed on the floor of the pool. So this time, that terror, that fear actually gripped him. Some serious fear actually seized, means gripped him. And at that point he realized that fear is something that he was not able to explain in words. He's saying that fear is something that no one can understand. It's beyond my control, and it could be only understood by someone who has actually experienced something like this. I was shrieking, that is screaming, yelling under the water. I was paralyzed underwater. Paralyzed means unable to move. So I was unable to move under the water. I was stiff, rigid with fear. Even the screams in my throat were frozen because of the water. He's saying that it's so chilling that as if my voice was not coming out, and the fear was so strong, had overpowered me, that I could not even call out someone for help. Only my heart and the pounding in my head said that I was still alive. So the only thing, that actually kept him, that actually told him that yes, he was still alive even after all this. He's still alive because he could hear the pounding, that is the raised heartbeats. He could see that, he could feel it within himself. And then in the midst of the terror came a touch of reason. I must remember to jump when I hit the bottom. So while all this terror, all this fear actually gripped him as a child, there again he remembered that yes, he could save himself, he would be all right, he would be safe if he jumped again the moment he hits the bottom of the pool. At last I felt the tiles under me. My toes reached out as if to grab them. I jumped with everything I had. So the moment, he touched the, tiles of the floor of the pool, he felt as if, the toes were trying to pull them and, was trying to take force from them. And with everything that he had, he actually jumped off again from the bottom to come up to the surface. But the jump made no difference. The water was still around me. I looked for ropes, ladders, water wings. Nothing but only water was all around. A mass of yellow water held me. So he was like that nothing was there. All he was surrounded by was the yellow water. Stark terror, like serious terror, actually took an even deeper hold on me, like a great charge of electricity. So he felt as if this yellow water, which is actually around him, is surrounding him, is giving him some kind of an electric shock. I shook and trembled with fright. That is, he became so fearful that he started trembling with fear, started moving with fear. My arms wouldn't move. My legs wouldn't move. I tried to call for help, to call for mother. Nothing happened. So this time again he's trying, to move his legs, his arms, but it seems as if everything became immobile. It stopped moving, and deep down a lot of fear actually gripped him. And then strangely there was light. I was coming out of the awful yellow water. So now suddenly probably the child again reached to the surface of the water and he could see light. That is, obviously when he was within the water, all he could see was the water, the yellow water. But now when he came up to the surface, probably his eyes were up, so he could see the light all around. At least my eyes were. My nose was almost out of it too. Then I started down a third time. I sucked for air and got water. The yellowish light was going out. So probably the yellowish light means that probably around the pool the lighting was yellow. And this child, for the second time when he came up, again his eyes were visible. Some part of the nose also came up on the surface. But again, the third time he started getting inside the water. He started getting drowned in the water for the third time. And he realized it when he actually thought that again what he is able to see, his eyes are gone inside the water. He is not able to see those yellow lights again. And then again he started sucking for air the moment he reached. Yes. Then all effort ceased, means came to an end. They stopped everything. I relaxed. Even my legs felt limp, that is motionless, dead. And a blackness swept over my brain. It wiped out fear. It wiped out the terror. There was no more a panic. It was quiet and peaceful. Nothing to be afraid of. This is nice. To be drowsy, to go to sleep. No need to jump. Too tired to jump. It's nice to be carried gently, to float along in space. Tender arms around me. Tender arms like mothers. Now I must go to sleep. So here the third time when the child was again drowning into the water, and this time probably he felt that he could not do anything now. No plan of action is going to work, no effort is going to work. So he stopped everything. He was even feeling too weak to even move his legs or his arms. And that's when he realized that probably he is going to die. That blackness swept over his brain. He started feeling that he's floating in that water. Now he felt that there was no pain. He was gently floating. And then he realized that probably the fear has gone, the terror has gone. Why? Because now he has accepted the fact that he is going to die. And therefore, he started liking and enjoying that drowsiness. Why? Because now the author here is trying to convey that the fear and the terror that had gripped him initially was more so because he was afraid of dying. But when actually he accepted that yes, the death was there, he is going to die, at that time everything becomes peaceful. He wanted to go to sleep. He liked that drowsiness. He was enjoying that. He was floating. Now he was not afraid of the water being around. He was not feeling pain anywhere. He just felt peace, and he felt as if someone is holding him and taking him to space. And those arms seemed comfortable. So death is going to engulf him. This he had accepted. I crossed to oblivion and the curtain of life fell. So he's saying that with all these feelings, he crossed to oblivion, means to an unknown area. To an unknown area. And then he said that it seemed as if I'm traveling to a different world, to an area which I don't know, to a place which I'm unaware about. And then the curtain of life fell, means as that is, his life came to an end. Life coming to an end. The next I remember, I was lying on my stomach beside the pool, vomiting. So this is the last thing that he remembers, and then suddenly when probably he's conscious, he finds himself to be lying next to the pool and vomiting. The chap, that is that boy that threw me in, was saying, but I was only fooling, that is I was only joking around, playing around. Joking around or playing around. The kid nearly died. Be alright now. Let's carry him to the locker room. So now probably he is being taken to the locker room. Several hours later, I walked home. I was weak and trembling. I shook and cried when I lay on my bed. I couldn't eat that night. For days, a haunting fear was in my heart. The slightest exertion upset me, making me wobbly in the knees and sick to my stomach. I never went back to the pool. I feared water. I avoided it whenever I could. So now when after hours he felt a little okay, he went to his house. He laid there crying, thinking about that incident. He was all very nervous, all very anxious. He was just in terror. He couldn't understand what really happened. And then he just remembers that yes, he has that fear of water. He's never going to be in water. And then he said that I avoided it whenever he could.